talk about some SAT math hacks, tips and tricks to catapult your SAT math score. It's Alexis Avila here at Prepped and Polished out of Wellesley, Massachusetts. For questions, tutoring, executive function coaching in person or online, visit preppedandpolished.com or call us 781-753-9951. And remember, if you find value watching this video, smash that like button, click the subscribe button, click the bell to get notifications for new videos. Now let's get right into the video. The number one SAT math secret to propel your math score. So today we're going to specifically be focusing on that SAT calculator section. And one thing that most students do incorrectly with the math calculator section is either under or overutilize their calculator. So what we want to try and do when we're going through the calculator math section is making the most out of what we see as important aspects of the test that require and or benefit from using of the calculator. Now, for most students that we work with, I suggest they use the calculator for two situations. One, for large-scale computations, and two, for graphing. So though you do need to know when and how to do it correctly. So for large-scale computations, let's give an example. Let's say you're finding out the probability, or they're asking you to solve for a value in a system of equations, and that deals with either large values or less traditional values. For example, in a systems of equations question, they start dealing with fractions and decimals that aren't quite so nice. Or a probability question that deals with super large values greater than 100, still not nice values, as I like to phrase it. So this would be an instance where I would recommend utilizing the calculator, just in terms of the calculations, to avoid any possible calculation errors that a student might do while writing it out. Of course, if they're going to the calculator to use this, students want to make sure that they're inputting it correctly, which can have its drawbacks as well if a student incorrectly inputs it or takes too long to input it. However, in a situation where you're trying to figure out the probability 6/10, that is something you should be about to do. You should be able to do without a calculator versus something like 275 out of 644. That might require a little bit more probability or calculation that quickly can be done on the calculator. Now, the second instance that I talked about using a calculator is in the instance of graphing. So let's go back to our systems of equations question. Let's say we're dealing with a system of equation that has not the kindest coefficients or constants in terms of our x, y variables and or our y-intercept that we'll later identify in our standard for the equation. So instead of trying to do all the math out, creating a slope, intercept form, or a y equals mx plus b format, we can at least plug in the equation into our calculator, graph the two lines, and find the point of intersection through a couple of quick key strokes on the calculator. Now, a lot of times students might not be aware of this, so it's good practice to have the student work with your tutor, whether it be with Prepped and Polished or a different tutoring company, and really work on identifying those quick keystrokes to get to that point in the calculator, depending on what brand they're using, to then answer that question accordingly. This also works really well with parabolas and linear equations when trying to find out the number of intersection points and what those intersection points are. Okay, so a quick recap. I really recommend that students use their calculator for two main uses. One, large-scale computations, aka instances where a student could make a calculation error due to the size of the number that they're dealing with. And or we use them into graphing situations where we can benefit from some of the keystrokes on the calculator to quickly identify either an intersection point, or in some cases for a student who's a more visual learner, what the graph looks like in terms of finding the minimum or finding the maximum for parabolas, or finding the direction of slope if they're having difficulty understanding it in different forms. Now, if you have any questions or you want more information on SAT test prep, especially for the math section, please feel free to contact us, Prepped and Polished, Good luck on the SAT exam, and I'll talk to you soon.